Inversion variations. This project is about infinity. Infinities, all these little infinities, nesting and branching inside everything, she thought to herself, reverbing off that second-hand quote she had heard from her indie music video director ex in Brooklyn. Some infinities are bigger than others. She wasn't sure if that was true, though. To her, all infinities were just packaged differently, maybe. Those yawning zeros she imagined during her math class at the redacted free art school, tubes of zeros stacked. She asked the teacher if some zeros were emptier than others, and he had said no, a little bit too quickly. She doubted he had really thought about it. She decided she would like one pitch flipped at middle C and time flipped at 5:01, but she didn't see anyone around to ask. A person in a dusty trucker hat came up to her, offered her their cushy over-ear headphones. I don't know where the inverters went, but you can listen to mine if you want. Flipped over B flat and 624 into the album. She accepted the headphones. The sound was very spacious and precious and yawning. It makes me think of drones. It makes me think of Tinkerbell, she said, as she passed the headphones back. Yeah, this is a fun space, they said back. They're about to start a live-action enactment of 99 bottles of beer on the wall. I think that's where everyone is. You want to come? She said yes. She sang 99 bottles of beer on the wall to herself when she couldn't sleep. The person in the trucker hat led her back to a roofless room made of sheetrock or maybe a coated expansion metal, honeycombed with holes to let the wind through. Around the walls, at shoulder level, were little shelves, each one holding its own beer, bottles of all colors of glass. Labels both familiar and interesting, little bottle openers to the side of each one. Here's how we'll do this, said a voice from the center of the room. Mustache and glasses and voice, just like Lex that she had met at said redacted free art school in the East Village, but she couldn't be sure. We will all sing together, the eternally singable 99 bottles of beer on the wall. If you don't know it yet, I bet you will be able to catch on pretty quick, okay? And each time the song says, take one down, pass it around, someone will do just that. Take a bottle of beer on the wall and pass it around. You don't have to drink and pass. In fact, don't do that unless you trust each other, but just pass the beer around a bit until it reaches its recipient. Then, of course, open it and drink it if you want. You can keep the bottle openers too. Thanks for doing this with me. I'm excited. Let's sing. On 3. 1, 2, 3. And she began to sing along. They all began to sing along. The room was pretty full and got fuller, attracted curious passers-by, people who wanted to sing too, the familiar tune. She got past a beer in a black bottle, rust-red label with IPA in sky blue Comic Sans font. Beer 54 or so. The beers took a while to meander through the room, but they had been singing for a while. It was delicious, bitter. She remembered hating and wishing she liked beer her teenage years, choking it down at parties only if there was no weed or shrooms or hard A or St. special brew. Trying to like it. It took decades. After she had her kid, everything alcoholic but IPAs would give her mean headaches. Tables turned. This one she swallowed carefully, so delicious, singing, wandered away when the song was over, cradling the dangling bottle between her first 2 fingers, feeling it sway with her footsteps. Felt her footsteps as vertical circles. She was hot. What was she wearing? Still overalls? She took off her top layers, tied them up into a bundle, flung it over her shoulder. Felt her walk or posture tilt back. Felt airy, felt vagabond. Someone wearing 7 pairs of sunglasses stacked up their forehead pulled a pair off and offered them to her. Rhinestone, rimmed, cat eyes, golden amber tint. She gave them something in return, a bracelet she found in her bra cup maybe, or a temporary tattoo of a QR code leading to a geocache, if she thought they might like geocaching. Something customized to current conditions. Thought about the gift economy, how its informality affected power dynamics, the personal handoff. Thought about gift cards. Remembered how she felt a few years ago when she heard someone, maybe Naomi Klein, say that economy was about value, what people value and how they value it. So fundamental and subjective and everyday. Thought about how before that she had thought about the economy as like interest rates and money and corporations in this cold way. Hadn't considered clearly how dear and tender the economy was / could be, and the dear and tender things wrapped up in, entangled with, in the clinical mechanics of interest rates, etc. Somehow, and for some reason, had held them separate. Felt kind of sheepish it had taken her so long, even with the Adbusters, OOs, and Occupy movement and like Marx and feminism. The way the artist said, capitalism, so matter-of-factly when she was describing what bothered her about working at the tree farm, all the rows and the pesticides. How matter-of-factly / godly she had considered Alan Greenspan and his decisions in the 90s. Ambiently deferred to him, perhaps somewhat because she couldn't see how his decisions directly affected the decisions she made in high school. Also, in keeping a reader's eye on national trends, figures, etc., she impressed her teachers and occasional classmates in her little inward-facing Portland-adjacent Mountain Valley town. She wanted to impress the inverted ones, the ones facing out, so close to where the mountain began to lift in earnest. When she was young, she swallowed the capitalist definition of the economy as the whole thing, and now was searching for a fuller sense of the economy of all the world's flows, the scale and scope of the gift economy, that little rhyme she knew from whenever. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. And that other one, the one that sounded like it came from a sad place, a sad voice that ran through her head every few years. Send me no flowers, 'cause they'll only die. Why tell me you love me if it's only a lie? Rejection or refusal of gifts. Unwelcomed, unboxed, burdens and baggage. She felt very close to her wagon. She saw a cluster of porta-potties, figured she should go pee, wondered if they were the same porta-potties as the last time, wondered if that was the last time she had peed. She held her breath and entered. This one had a blue glow stick on the screen. This one had a blue glow stick in the tank too, or maybe green, and a rave flyer somewhere in the interior, somewhere hard to see. Maybe the floor, covered in dusty footsteps, or in the tank with the glow stick, floating slowly by. She could barely read it. It looked transparent, like she could see both sides at once. In this split second, the rave flyer felt to her like a milestone, forgotten in the porta-potty, an invitation, a point of constant return, raves as portals for her always. When she offered the girl that gave everyone the best face massages a face massage in return, and at the end she said, "No one ever gives me face massages," and looped a simple plur choker off of her neck and onto hers, saying, "I've been wearing this necklace all summer. 3-color pattern clear pony beads and black block letters on white cube beads." She looked back later on pictures from the first rave of the season, Hug-A-War probably, and saw her wearing it. Feeling told the truth to, feeling special, feeling kind of sad that nobody else offered the face massage girl face massages. The last rave of the first summer, neon green lasers hitting the leaves on the tree on the island, sitting on the edge of the pond, watching them dance like pixies of energy, bring enough for everybody. She was holding her breath in that strong way, feeling her lungs pulse. She opened the door of the porta potty, carefully stepped over the lip of the exit's edge, felt her tiptoes hit the soft dust of the salt flats, little clouds puffing up with each impact. Slow-mo, feeling so slow-mo. And there was this camp right there, her wagon next to the beanbags where she had left it. She reached into one of the compartments underneath the seats and fished out her floor-length silver slip-dress spaghetti strap, cut on the bias, too big for her. Droopy like she liked it, puddling around her on the ground as she pulled it over her head. Let it fall as it may, feeling slightly slime mold, remembered the one with all the sexes and all the shares of its press release. She saw one of the disc boys, fished her favorite shoulder bag from the same compartment. The metal strap her coworker had fashioned for her in the fab shop segmented the satchel silk coated in clear plastic, clear vinyl, surface slightly sticky in the heat. Strategic mesh cutouts pleated with fine mesh, expandable mesh reveals as she fills it with things, a Rice Krispie treat laced with blue cubenzis, berries in a wicker basket, a few scarves of various dimensions and textures, changeable taffeta, tutu tulle, burnout velvet, aka devore, shot silk, and soft silk. The book she found in the desert, a soft No. 2 pencil or a few foil gel pens, India ink and an inexpensive fountain pen maybe. Remembered how her fountain pen would catch on the watercolor paper when she used to use one to write with and draw with, Eugene era 04 or so. Attributed it to her left-handed writing style, pushly. The little handmade blank books she made her high school friends for Christmas back in 04 or so. Abstract one-line drawings like talisman knots on the covers, each section watercolored in a different bright tint. All hand-sewn tight together with wax string. I think I put some poems in there between the blank pages, she thought, trying to remember. Admitting there are things she can't remember those days, so benzo days or benzo night. It's mostly, though, awash in blur at any hour. Roller skating to the bar in 80s leotards from Goodwill, weed butter, cinnamon toast for breakfast. This is Eugene era 0408. She fills her bag with her things, and her mind is filling maybe, overflowing also, spilling out. Time still fluttering or starting to flutter, everything overlapping, layers and trajectories. Everybody's body movements with like hour-long tracers, long exposure everywhere. Sounds echoing forever, feels them bounce into the distance. Tense, close, and heavily present, feeling very present, tense, present continuous into simple present states of being. Her bag is full, and she can feel forever for a second. Time dilation or turning sideways, she says to herself. That's how it feels. Infinities and forevernesses. Someone scratching words into the surface of the salt flats. That graphic of the planet spiraling through space, layered coils, and their moons and the stars. She never leaves or turns back to the disc camp. She has to charge her phone. Spies one of the disc boys standing next to an RV, a tapestry tied around his waist, ostentatious tennis shoes edged close to him into his peripheral vision. Hey, sorry to bother you, but can I use your charger? iPhone SE. He casually looked up and said, Oh, hey, of course, come in here. The RV was so dusty, like it had been out there 10 times and crusted over every surface. Camouflage, blur tool, fade into. She followed, stepped inside. The AC was on. There were people sitting at the little kitchen table, rolling a spleef, making inside jokes. The disc boy plugged her phone into a charger next to the sink. Yes, power up whatever you need, he said, but she didn't really believe it fully. Didn't ever want to lean on anybody male, TBH. I appreciate it so much, she said, since she so did. And the disc boy said, East Coast practical. Full charge should take about an hour. At least that's what it's been taking. Come back about then? Or whatever. Whenever. If it isn't here, it'll be in this drawer. He pointed to a drawer. She sat down on the curved styrofoam bench, edging the kitchen table, next to the inside jokesters. One of them looked at her, swung their face to her suddenly, like looking for a laugh on a joke that didn't land on anybody else, like asking her to come inside. Moop group, let's do it, they said, and she understood, let her eyes and posture relax, understanding and willing to appreciate the premise, the rhyme, the word, the concept. Want to moop with us? They said enthusiastically. Maybe kidding, but she guessed not, and she nodded yes. Moop, a fancy name for litter, matter out of place acronym, remembering her kid and her interest in fancy Nancy books, missing her kid again. Let's moop, she said, accepted their little trash bag, bedazzled. Even mooping these days has its glamour, she thought. Followed them outside the RV, hit their spliff, began to moop, picking up little pieces of material, non-dust, caps from plastic water bottles, a hair tie, scraps scattered on the salt flats. Tucked them into her borrowed bedazzled trash bag, saw a headlamp in the middle of the road, wondered if it was trash or a ground squirrel. Remembered watching the ritualistic kicking through all the cups at the end of Cyberfest 2000, the biggest rave ever, the news channel said. Fresno, California, the last ravers at the rave, seeing what the rest had left behind. How she had never seen this ritualistic kicking before, but understood it as something common at large-scale California raves. Scavengers lingering, making the best of it. How she had left her metal Turkish gold tin with her ID and money in it on the concrete outside the house dome at Cyberfest 2000. She got her ID, but not her money back in the mail a few weeks later with a note. Hot. How she felt grateful that the scavenger who scored her money decided to send her ID, had made the value calculation give that back. She mused on her lifelong draw towards scrounging and scavenging hand-me-downs and found items. For example, the length of blue tinsel she picked up in the parking lot that same year, 2000, tied it in her hair. How her relationship to abandoned or forgotten things inflected as she got older. How she would rather now, at least in part of her heart, rather not take on somebody else's headlamp that they were maybe going to come back for. How when she was younger she'd think I can take good care of and appreciate that thing. One of the other people in her moop crew grabbed the headlamp, slung it around their forearm, and she felt less tense, concentrated on mooping the countless tiny squares of glitter at her feet, microplastics. Cleaning is a kind of hiding, she remembered tweeting. One of her problematic heroes faved it. How the first time she heard priceless, she thought it meant worthless. Holograph camp and building from memory hardware camp. That is, contact camp. You remember that movie, don't you? Where the scientist space traveler character, played by Jodie Foster, is met on a luminous beach by aliens who have taken the shape of her dead father in the beach, appearing in familiar shapes to draw on existing trust networks. She mooped meditatively, like rhythmically, touching her left index finger to each little piece of trash and letting static electricity or other connective energies draw it upward, scraped each one off her fingertip into the bedazzled bag looped around her right wrist.